Hey guys, I'm Kevin and this is Comms by Kemp Outside, where your inside source for outdoor comms. Today I'm going to tell you all the reasons why, hate is a strong word guys, why I don't hate, why I dislike the VGC VR-N76 handheld ham radio. Guys, I truly want to like this radio, and there is a lot to like about this radio, but there are some things that just drive me nuts. So in this video I'm going to go over all the things I don't like about the VGC VR-N76 radio, and then in my next video on this radio I'm going to tell you all the things I love about the VGC VR-N76, because there's also a lot to really like about this radio. Guys, I have been using this radio off and on now since Hamcation. I bought the radio back in Hamcation 2025. I saw it sitting there and I was like, wow, a little handheld that does APRS that isn't Kenwood expensive. I kind of want it. So I went ahead and bought it. And guys, you know, for a sub $200 handheld radio, there is a lot to like in this, but there are some things that just drive me crazy. So let's get into it. So I would classify the two major issues I have as, number one, issues with the radio itself, and number two, issues with the app interface, right? So let's talk about the issues I have with the radio itself. There are a few things that I just think really could have been done better. The first one being, and it's a real simple one, the headphone jack. They use a non-standard headphone jack when a K1 style connector would have been just fine. Guys, I have so many radios that have K1 style headphone or speaker mic connectors that it would just be really nice to be able to pull one of my speaker mics out of the drawer or my bag and connect it right to this radio. I think the reason why they did that, or at least maybe the conspiracy theorist in me thinks that the reason why they did that is either number one, so you'll buy their proprietary speaker mic, or number two, so you'll buy their Bluetooth speaker mic and use that, which is not an inexpensive speaker mic, right? And it's kind of big. To me, it's kind of awkward, and it's, you know, it doesn't have a screen or anything like that. So I'm kind of like, you know, why bother with it? So I don't use a speaker mic with this radio. I would like to. I really like to clip a radio to my pack and then have a speaker mic up on my pack strap, shoulder strap, and use it that way. And I can't do that with this radio. So that is pet peeve number one. Guys, that's a minor one. Here's the big one that I don't like with this radio, and that is that the channels are stored in banks, right? And so you have a number of banks, and I don't even really know how many banks are in this radio, right? But then in each bank you can have up to 32 channels of storage, and then you have to switch between banks, and that to me is just really kind of annoying. I would rather just have all the channels in a single bank that I can just scroll through, right? And I can set up my scan list and everything in one bank, so I don't have to switch to different banks depending on what I want to do with the radio. I just really think that banks are an unnecessary pain in the butt. And then guys, the other thing is that if you want your radio to beacon APRS, you have to make a dedicated channel, no matter what bank you're in, the APRS channel. Because if you change it up, right? So case in point for me, 144.390, which is, you know, the APRS frequency, is the first channel in every bank on my radio. So that if I switch banks, channel 1 is still APRS. So I have APRS in my radio 6 times. So I'm taking up 6 channels for the same purpose, so that no matter what bank my radio is in, it's always APRS beaconing on that frequency. That to me is a waste, right? And it's not like this thing doesn't have 999 channels either. It's got, I think it's 6 banks times 32 channels, right? So whatever that comes out to. But I'm not going to do the math in my head, but bottom line is it's kind of limited on the number of channels, number one. And number two, they're divided into banks, which to me is just very stupid. And number three, you have to assign the APRS beacon a channel, right? Why can't you assign the APRS beaconing a channel that is outside of the bank so that it's always beaconing on that frequency no matter what bank you're in? So just really stupid channel layout. And then on top of that, guys, it's not chirp programmable. So with all my other radios where I could just copy and paste all of my repeater programs, my simplex frequency programs, all that stuff, all the channels that I monitor, guys, right? I monitor MERS, GMRS, FRS, Marine VHF, AM aircraft band, right? I monitor all those things, but I can't copy and paste those into the radio from chirp, right? I have to either program from the face of the radio or from the app and save it in the appropriate bank, which to me is just really frustrating. So those are the radio side things that I really dislike about this radio. And again, I don't want to get too much into what I like about the radio because I'm going to do that in the next video. But if we could fix those things, if we could put a standard K1 style connector on this radio that would interface with my programming cable, and that we could program it with chirp, and it had just one bank of channels and more channels too, guys, because 999 memory channels would be really nice in a radio like this, that would be ideal. Now let's talk about the problems I have with the app. So having a software-defined handheld radio that you can control through Bluetooth from a smartphone is a really, really cool thing, guys. I really like the concept, right? And if I was an Android user, I would probably love it, but I'm not, right? And so I don't know whether my beef is with the radio or whether my beef is with Apple, and it's probably with Apple, right? Because Apple is a little more restrictive, and I don't really know why that is, right? But I have two versions of the HT app. I have one on an old Android tablet, right? And this tablet is old. It's one of my kids' old tablets. And I only use this for ham radio, right? I only use this for the HT app and a couple other ham radio apps. And then I also have it on my iPhone and my iPad. And the big thing is, guys, is I am an Apple user. And I really seem to think that Apple really sucks for ham radio. And it's unfortunate that that's the case because I love Apple for video production, which is what I do, right? I'm a YouTuber, and this isn't my only YouTube channel, right? I've got my Camp Outside, my main YouTube channel, which does camping, hiking, and fishing content all across North America. And so I shoot a lot of video. I take a lot of pictures. I do a lot of video editing, and I do all of that in an Apple environment, either on my iPhone, my iPad, or my MacBook Pro. And I love the way all of that seamlessly integrates across those devices. I even use my Apple Watch for camera control, stuff like that. So I am an Apple user. And, you know, I also have a Dell PC, right? So I use Windows and Mac both in my office environment. And now I've got to add Android to that just to run some of the ham radio apps that I want to use. And I got to say, guys, the HT app in the Android ecosystem is far better than the app in the Apple ecosystem. And I don't really understand why, but it is incredibly frustrating to me as an Apple user that a lot of the functionality in the app isn't available on Apple. Let me get the camera turned around. I'm going to show you what I mean. All right, guys, so here is the radio operating on the Android app, right? And the functionality of the HT app is pretty cool when you're running it on Android. So one of the things that I am doing is I'm receiving APRS packets, and on the map it tells me where I'm receiving them from and how far away they are. So one just came in from 55.8 kilometers away, right? And then there's another one from 177.6 kilometers away. I mean, these are really far away. I'm really surprised. right? I'm in the center there, that dot. As it receives things, it'll pop up on the map. You don't get any of this on the Apple version of the app. I don't know why it won't display what comes up, right? So that's just really cool how that works. And yep, see, I just received another one from Sun City Center, 26.6 or 22.6 kilometers away. Now one 21.6 kilometers away from the other direction, from Mulberry. You know, really, really neat. You don't get any of that on the Apple app. Now here's the next thing, right? If I want to change a frequency, because I'm going to do this just to test it. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to hit the hamburger, I think. Yep, here we go. And I'm just going to select this one right here, 146580, right? Which is just a basic simplex frequency, right? And I'm going to use the microphone on the app to control the radio, right? So let me make sure that the band is selected right. Okay, it is good. So I'm going to say, so I'm going to do a little test. Here we go. KB8 WPD testing. Right, so I transmitted through the app, through hitting that microphone button. You don't have any of that functionality on the Apple app, right? So that just kind of sucks that you don't have that. Here's one of the other things, right? So if we go back into, if I want to change the channel bank that I'm in, right, up here, you hit the map, right? And then I can select the different channel banks I want. So if I want to go into my GMRS, actually I hit the wrong one. This is SARnet, which is the statewide amateur radio link repeater system. But if I want to just monitor GMRS frequencies, right, they're all my GMRS channels. I have to switch into that bank, right, and then it automatically switches the VFOs on the radio, A and B, to pick the right channels, right? So this little flag here helps me switch back and forth between my favorites, between GMRS, SARnet, and then other banks that I have. That little map is missing in the Apple app version. And so it's very hard to switch banks in the Apple version of the app. And I don't understand why that functionality is missing. It's really kind of a pain in the butt. On the Apple app, you have to hit the settings menu, and then you hit channel and groups, right? And then you can select from your channel groups, right? So that's how you do it in the Apple. So it's a couple more steps, right? Let me get the radio swapped over to the Apple app so you can see it. All right, guys, so I now have the Apple version, and as you can see, even when I receive anything from APRS, right, I'm not getting any of the lines, nothing telling me the distance or where I've received items from. If you notice, there's no push to talk button on the app itself, right? There's nothing like the Android version to use those features. When I go into the hamburger here, right, and I should be able to pull up the menu. I'm going to hit VR-N76. Okay, so here is my list here. So if you see, some of those selectors up here are missing, right? The little flag for switching into different banks is gone, right? So I can't hit a little flag and change the bank easily. I have to go into settings, channels and groups, switch device channel group. And then what's weird is it's showing channel groups that the Android version of the app is not showing. And I've tried to delete those out, and I can't figure out how to get rid of them in the Apple app. So it's just, again, the Apple app is really, really clunky. Now, here's one of the other things that is really frustrating about using this radio with Apple devices, and that is the effect it has on the APRS beaconing. And you have to be really cautious because the Apple app will change the settings on the radio. It'll turn off APRS and it'll turn on, I think it's called BSS, right? So if I go to signaling settings, this is, yep, so here it says format, right, APRS. It will change it to BSS sometimes, and there's a setting in the app where you have to tell it to turn off overriding the radio with what's saved on the tablet or your phone, right? And because basically what will happen is if it does that, every time you open the app, it rewrites the radio and turns off your APRS settings, which are really, really annoying. I'm glad to see that better versions of this app have kind of fixed that a little bit, but it was really, really frustrating to me early on. It didn't seem like the Android version of the app caused those problems at all. So just something to consider there, right, is you have to be very cautious when you're using the HT app on Apple products. Now, one of the things that I have been told, right, if I go out of this app, is that the BTEC version of the app is a much better version than the HT version in terms of screwing up the radio. But the same things are true on the BTEC version of the app. No APRS receiving lines are coming up on the map. No push to talk from the app itself. When I go into the hamburger, oh, I've got to close the other app, I think. But the bottom line is the same things that I showed you on the HT app are still the same problems with the BTEC version of the app. You just lose a lot of the cool functionality of the app in the Apple version. And again, this might be totally out of the control of VGC, right? It might have everything to do with Apple and nothing to do with VGC. But the bottom line is that, you know, half the people out there are Apple users and half of them are Android users. And, you know, if half the people are missing, you know, significant functionality of the app, then the radio is not as fun to use, which is why I carry around an old Android tablet to do ham radio stuff, especially with this VGC radio. And I probably need to buy a new Android tablet, but bottom line is, you know, I don't want to switch over to Android just for this, right? But I also don't want to have a poor experience using Apple apps with the VGC. So I'm kind of torn, you know, do I want to carry around a whole second mobile device just to operate a radio? Or is the VGC, you know, really not for me? Or is it just something that I have to deal with? I don't know. I haven't decided how I want to do that, but let's finish out the video. Well, guys, there you have it. Those are the reasons why I seriously dislike, or at least have a love-hate relationship with the VGC VR-N76. Guys, I really want to like this radio. I really want to use this radio a lot. As a matter of fact, I want it to be my go-to HT. It is so cool, but I really want it to work with Apple devices. Like, I just really, really struggle with the idea of carrying around a second Android device just to interface with my radio. And guys, I admit the Apple versions of the apps have gotten better, right? When they first came out, when I first got this radio after Hamcation, and it kept turning off my APRS settings, it was driving me crazy. I was like, this radio is unusable. I was thinking about selling it. I was just getting so mad. That's when I pulled out an old Android tablet I had from one of the kids and said, well, I'm just going to use this for ham radio, to use it with this radio. So I'm really happy that the Apple apps have come a long way, but without the full functionality of the app, it kind of sucks, right? And then the other big things, right, and I've seen this on other channels that have reviewed this radio. You know, they've said, you know, this is just the first version of this radio. Imagine where this radio could go in subsequent versions. And I totally agree. So if I could plead with the makers of this radio, whether it's VGC's version, BTEC's version, Radiodity's version, get rid of the stupid banks and just put a 999 memory option into this radio so that we can just set up our scan list, set up our APRS channel setting and all that stuff, and just not have to screw around with stupid channel banks. I understand why the channel banks are the way they are, because in the app it's kind of nice to be able to switch through channel banks, but if you're on the Apple version of the device, you've got to go through the menu system to change banks, which sucks. And then on the radio as well, you have to go through. So like it's menu, right? And then you go down to, oops, is it radio settings? Let's see. Yep, radio settings, channel group, and then you can select which channel group you want, right? So you've got to switch banks on the radio if you don't have your phone or your tablet handy. It's kind of a pain versus just scrolling to the channel that you want. So get rid of the banks, right? I hate the banks. And then in the second version of the radio, put it just a standard K1 connector for the microphone. Like, you know, you can make those connectors waterproof. If you can make this connector waterproof, you can make a Kenwood K1 waterproof, or use the Motorola version. I don't like that as much, but you know, I hate having to buy a proprietary speaker mic because yours is the only one that fits, right? That's uncool. So there you have it, guys. Those are the things that I dislike about the VGC VR-N76. Now, it's still a really, really cool radio. So the next video I'm gonna do on this radio, I'm gonna talk about all the things I absolutely love about this radio, and there's a bunch. So if you want to see that video, make sure you hit subscribe, ring that little bell icon that notifies you when we release new videos, and give me a thumbs up on this video. Guys, tell me what you think about the VGC VR-N76. Am I being too hard on this radio? Right? Am I expecting too much? Am I blaming VGC or Vero or whoever makes this radio? Am I blaming them when I should really be blaming Apple, right? Should this message be directed at Apple? Hey, open up some of your functionality on your app so that people can do the things that they want to do, right? Maybe that is the case, right? You tell me, am I being too hard on this radio, or do you agree with me, right? Do you think that this is a really cool but flawed radio, and if they would just fix the flaws, it would be outstanding? I really do think that this could be a Kenwood killer, right? Now, that Kenwood is awesome. That Kenwood is also $750. I don't have the budget to buy a Kenwood. I do have the budget for one of these. So just, you know, something to consider. But you tell me, what do you think? Drop some in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Or you can connect with us on our other social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X, or our website at kempoutside.com. Guys, we are all about outdoor comms, right? This is Comms by Kemp Outside. We're your inside source for outdoor comms. We love to get out there camping, hiking, fishing, all that stuff, and taking radios and doing radio comms outside. So if you like this kind of content, again, stay tuned, stick with us. I'm Kevin with Comms by Kemp Outside. We'll see you outside. Thanks for watching.